Hare Krishna. So first of all, I would like to thank all of you for taking out your time and coming this evening. And also thankful to all the devotees of Sri Sri Kishore Kishori's congregation for allowing me to come and do some service to all of you. I was told to speak today on the subject of Atma Nivedanam, the second limb of the process of surrendering unto Krishna, taking shelter of Krishna, the Sharanagati, has been illustrated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his song Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori. So in that song he explains Dainya Atma Nivedana. Atma Nivedana is the second limb of Sharanagati. The first and foremost limb of process of surrender is humility. I believe that was discussed last week. So today we are supposed to discuss the second limb of Sharanagati, that is Atma Nivedanam. Now according to the Sanskrit dictionary, the Amarkosh dictionary, the word Atma has several meanings. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also describes, in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami, the different meanings of word Atma while explaining the Atmaram verse. So there it is explained, the word Atma has several meanings, beginning with the body. The body is also called in Sanskrit as Atma. For especially people who are in Dehatma Buddhi, those who are in bodily concept of life, for them Atma means body. And then there are philosophers, for them the mind is the Atma. And intelligence is also sometimes referred as Atma. The soul is in true sense called as Atma. And also sometimes super soul is referred as Atma. So Atma, when we take all these different meanings of word Atma, leaving the word Paramatma meaning, body, mind, intellect, or even the soul, connected with word Nivedana means to offer. So Atma Nivedana means to offer one's complete self. So a person who thinks body is the real self, offering the body. But the ultimate thing in the body, mind, intelligence and soul, the soul is considered the real substance. The consciousness is coming from the soul. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this body is not our real identity. The real identity is we are a spirit soul. And that spirit soul is the source of consciousness. So offering the very self, the Atma, to the Supreme Lord is truly the process of Atma Nivedanam. And of course that automatically includes the body, mind and intelligence. And of course, this is considered the second stage of surrender or taking shelter of the Supreme Lord, true shelter of the Supreme Lord. The first was humility, which we discussed last week, but that itself is so difficult. To imbibe the humility, the true spirit of humility is so difficult. And the next stage comes, when one attains humility, the next stage comes offering everything to the Lord. Everything that we possess, including body, mind and the very self, the true self. So it's a very, very difficult thing in the conditioned state. But it's very natural. Natural means without any difficulty. It's very natural state for the soul to offer everything in the service of God, in the service of Krishna. So when a living entity is completely purified of all the material contaminations, he has no hesitation to offer everything in the service of Krishna, without any consideration whether the body will be preserved or not, whether the mind, intelligence will be preserved or not. And soul, of course, is never destroyed. No. So there is no question of preserving or not preserving the soul. No. One is fully willing to dedicate or offer everything in the service of Krishna. Whenever we speak about Atma Nivedana, we easily remember from Bhagavatam the example of Bali Maharaj. No. Of course, we'll just try to highlight what is actually Atma Nivedana, what exhibited by Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, he was killed. He was killed on the battlefield. In Devasur Sangram, he was killed. And by mercy of Shukracharya, he was revived from dead, because Shukracharya had Sanjeevani Vidya, by which he could revive the dead person from, his dead condition and give him again life. So Bali Maharaj was revived by Shukracharya, and he became naturally indebted to Shukracharya. He became his disciple, started serving him and Brahmanas. And Brahmanas, being very pleased with Bali Maharaj, blessed him. The Brahmanical power is so wonderful that the Brahmanas are referred in the scriptures especially even more powerful than the Devas, the demigods. They have actually more powers. They can even help a person to subdue and defeat the demigods. What to speak of any humans or demons, in this creation. In the 12th canto of Bhagavatam, we see this description of Janmejaya. Maharaj Janmejaya, when he heard that his father, Parikshit Maharaj, was killed by the biting of Takshaka snake, he became very angry. So he wanted to wipe out all the races of snakes. He didn't want any snakes in all of the creation. This is somehow the people sometimes become highly inimical, right? Oh, this person killed my father, so his whole dynasty should be wiped out. So that's what Janmejaya thought. And he arranged one sacrifice with the help of Brahmanas, where all the snakes from all over the creation should be sacrificed. He arranged that sacrifice. And the Brahmanas started offering the mantras, and snakes from the different parts of creation were coming and falling in the fire. But Janmejaya Maharaj became very restless. He asked the Brahmanas, why that low-class serpent, Takshak, he's not coming in? I'm seeing all the different snakes are coming in, but the snake which actually bit my father, he's not coming in. So Brahmana said, actually Takshaka has taken shelter of Indra. So what to do? He won't come here until unless Indra also comes here along with Takshak. So Janmejaya said, then chant some mantras by which Indra should also fall in this fire along with Takshak. So Brahmana said, all right. And they chanted mantras. The Brahmanas had so much power, they chanted the mantras, and Indra from the heavenly abode, along with his asan, started falling from that abode, along with Takshaka, right into that fire. And Brahma came and said, stop, don't kill him. He's administrator of the universe. So please stop, don't kill him. And being requested by Brahma, Janmejaya stopped the sacrifice. But that was the power of Brahmanical culture. So Brahmana could even make Indra fall from his asan and be burned into the sacrificial fire. That was the power of Brahmanical, class. So because Bali Maharaj, he pleased the Brahmanas, they became very happy with him. And they made him perform a sacrifice called Vishwajit. Vishwajit means conqueror of the whole universe, whole Vishwa. So he performed successfully that yajna, and as a result of yajna, he actually conquered the whole universe. He actually conquered even the heavenly abodes of Indra. And Indra ran away in fear of Bali Maharaj. That's the nature of this world. Some time ago, Indra actually killed Bali Maharaj successfully. But next time when Bali Maharaj returned, Indra couldn't stand in front of him. So today somebody is very powerful. Next day, you don't know. He's defeated at the hands of, same person whom he might have defeated many, many times. Actually, whatever powers we possess, whatever influence we have, it's not ours. It can be taken away any moment from us. It is borrowed. It is given by the mercy of the Lord. So, Bali Maharaj became the king, and demigods were wandering here and there. I won't go into much detail, but the mother of Indra and all the demigods, Aditi, she became restless and she prayed to her husband that my sons are actually wandering because Bali is so inimical towards them. So they should have their own abode. Please do something. So Kashyapa Muni, the father of all the devas and asuras, he guided Aditi to perform Payovrata, and she performed that vrata, and as a result of that vrata, Lord Vishnu agreed to be her son, and he appeared in the form of Vamandev. So Lord Vamandev, taking the form of a dwarfed boy, a Brahmana boy, he went to the arena of Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was by this time already the conqueror of the whole universe. And he was still performing yajnas. That's the nature. Even if you have the status in the society, you are afraid of losing the status. So just to maintain that status, the person has to work hard. A person who may be poverty-stricken, has no money, he may be working hard just to get his daily meals. But a person who is millionaire, he is also working hard to maintain his status. My millions shouldn't go down. It should remain as millions, So everybody is working hard. Therefore, Prabhupada says, this world is characterized by the hard struggle for existence. Everybody is struggling simply to exist. A pauper without penny, he's struggling to exist. A millionaire is struggling to exist as a millionaire. Everybody is struggling. And that's what Bali Maharaj was doing. He was struggling in one way to remain as the conqueror of the whole universe. So when Lord Vamandev appeared in his Yagyashala as a beggar Brahmana, and he told Bali Maharaj, I want just 3 steps of land. And there's a beautiful conversation between Bali Maharaj and Lord Vamandev. Bali Maharaj, when he heard that there's a Brahmana who's just asking 3 steps of land, he said, this is insult to me. I'm the king of the whole, practically, creation now. Once you come to my doorstep, you should ask me something that you don't have to beg for the rest of your life. I'm capable of giving you that much. That's what Bali Maharaj was thinking, that I'm capable of giving him sufficient. Why is asking only 3 steps? But his guru told him, stop. He's not an ordinary Brahmana. He's Vishnu. He has come in the form of this dwarfed boy. His sole intention is to only cheat you. He will take away everything from you in just 2 steps. In 2 steps, he will take away the lower and upper planetary systems, lower, middle and upper planetary systems, and you will have nothing to offer him for the 3rd step. Now just imagine, Bali Maharaj, his glories is, he knew beforehand what is going to happen. All his wealth is going to be taken away. Here is Lord Vishnu who has come at his doorstep as a beggar, no? And he has come with the sole intention of cheating him. Just imagine if all of us, we are put in the similar situation, where you know that somebody comes to your doorstep as a beggar and he has come to take away everything from you if you promise to give it away. How many of you will be willing to give? They just shut the door, say, I'm not there at home, right? And actually his guru gave him justification from the Vedas. He said, when it's a question of livelihood, you can actually refuse to give charity. Or even if you have given promise, you can break the promise when it's a question of livelihood. Of course, that's Niti Shastra. The lower scriptures, injunctions, they say that. That you can speak lies in certain circumstances. But Bali Maharaj, he refused. First of all, Bali Maharaj is grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. So he had sufficiently heard from his grandfather that the will of Vishnu can never be frustrated. When Vishnu decides something, it has to happen. No matter what you do, it will happen. So here Vishnu has come, even with the cheating intention to take away everything from me. Even if I refuse to give him, he will take away. I am already lost. No. That's very clear in the mind of Bali Maharaj. No. Now see, one may think, when a person knows that I have no option only, I am lost anyway, he will easily give it up. But that's not true. Even if a person knows that he is going to be defeated, he doesn't want to give up. If the person is deeply rooted in the bodily concept of life, if he thinks body and bodily pleasures are most important in my life, he won't be able to give it up. We have the example of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra heard the whole Bhagavad Gita. Everything he heard. And Krishna says in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that except you 5 Pandavas, everyone present on this battlefield on both the sides, from your side and even from Duryodhana's side, everybody will die. And I have already killed Bhishma, Drona, everybody's killed. You just become my instrument and kill them. Dhritarashtra heard this all. He had confirmation that he is defeated. He was still not willing to give it up. He still wanted the battle. He still had some hope. Maybe my sons will be victorious. Because Bhishma is there on our side. So it's not necessary if a person knows that I am going to be loser, he will become detached. No, it doesn't happen. But Bali Maharaj, he decided to offer everything to Lord Vamandev in spite of knowing that he is going to be cheated. And that's what Vamandev did. When he was offered, yes, you can take 3 steps of land. He expanded his farm so huge that in 2 steps he took away everything that Bali Maharaj had. Everything. And then he turned to Bali Maharaj. So you had promised me 3 steps. But in 2 steps I have taken away everything. You don't have anything to offer me. So what should I do now? Where should I keep my 3rd step? It was a great predicament for Bali Maharaj. He had actually nothing. Nothing. Everything, all his possessions were taken away in just 2 steps. But because he was very much willing to give something to Lord Vishnu, that was his intention. Vishnu has come to my doorstep. I should not refuse him. I want to give him 3 steps. And when somebody has such pure intentions to offer something to Krishna, Krishna gives intelligence. Krishna says, Mata smritir jnanam apohanam chana. From me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So Krishna gives knowledge and wisdom how to fulfill that promise. So Bali Maharaj started giving reasoning to to the Lord. He said, my dear Lord, whenever we speak about possessions, the possessions are different from the possessor. Possessions are possessed by the possessor. If I say, this is my car, so car is my possession, but I am different from the car. So if you take away the car, I as a possessor still exist separately. So you have not taken me, you have taken my possessions. So now, for your third step, I am offering you myself. You can place your foot on my head and accept me also as your possession. In this way, Bali Maharaj, he offered his very self. It was not just the body that he offered. He actually offered his very self to the Lord. And therefore he is glorified as one of the great Mahajans, one exemplary teacher who teaches from his example how to offer everything to the Lord. Even this body, the mind, and the very self, the soul, he offered to the Lord. So that is the example of Atma Nivedanam, offering practically everything that we possess. And it's very difficult. Just imagine, Bali Maharaj had to go through humiliation before asking for the third step. After Lord Vamandev took away 2 steps, he actually bound Bali Maharaj with the ropes of Varuna. In Varuna Pash, he bound him in front of all his family members. And then the soldiers of Bali Maharaj came to actually kill Vamandev. That you are a cheater, you have come to cheat our king and you are insulting our king. Vamandev said, no, I have willingly given. So you have no right to defend against me, against my will. And then he offered himself. But the process of Atma Nivedan is very, very difficult. No? Until unless one is consciously coming in front of the Lord and praying that, my dear Lord, please accept whatever I have in your service. Consciously a person comes every day and prays and lives with that consciousness. It will be very difficult when small things are taken away from our life. We become so disturbed. If a person loses his job, he becomes disturbed. If a person loses his money, the family breaks, the person becomes disturbed. I remember, a few years ago when I was living in Mumbai, there is actually a very nice Vaishnava there, His name is Gudakesh Prabhu. He lives still in Mumbai, in Meera Road congregation. And the devotees told me, he was the diamond merchant and very expert in his business, So he was a diamond merchant, very successful, practically millionaire. And he was introduced to Krishna consciousness. So he started, coming to the temple and he was very much liking it. So he decided that I already have enough money, so I don't need to work anymore. I will now shut down my business. He had 2 children, 1 son and 1 daughter, still young. They were in the school. So he decided, let me shut down my business. And he actually shut down his business and he decided, now every day I will come to temple and chant 64 rounds and do service in the temple. And whatever money he had, he gave on interest so that he can keep getting good interest rate. And that's how his family is sustained. He gave the money to somebody, some of his friend. All the money he gave to just one friend to do the business. In less than 6 months, the friend went bankrupt. That means all the money that he had, huge savings, that was gone, with no scope of coming back. And now he was already staying, coming to temple every day, chanting 64 lines, preaching and studying Srimad Bhagavatam and inspiring so many other devotees to practice and to take to Krishna consciousness. So when his huge chunk of money is gone, which was the source of his income, which he expected, now he had two options. Either to go back to business or just continue much more humble life, not with so much, funds available to him, his son and daughter still being in school, to just continue a humble life and continue preaching and doing his activities. So he decided to choose the second option, not to go into business, but continue. And he's one of the most happy person who has inspired hundreds of people in Krishna consciousness through his own example. He's actually a great inspiration for so many devotees. It's very difficult that if you lose something that you are accustomed to be living by, and still continue your service to Krishna. That's actually the process of Atma Nivedan. With small losses, we get disturbed. We are going to celebrate Ram Navami next week, right? Saturday. Many devotees think, when I am practicing Krishna consciousness, that means Krishna should protect everything that I have. They may even quote verse, Yogakshemam Vahamyam. Krishna says in Gita, I will bring whatever you are lacking and I will preserve whatever you have. Krishna says in Gita. And sometimes that is misunderstood. Devotees think, I have come to Krishna. Krishna should protect my job. He should protect my wife, children, my family, my bank balance. Krishna should be protecting it, right? That's his responsibility. Srila Prabhupada beautifully explains in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna says, Kim no rajyena Govinda, kim bhogair jivatena va. Krishna, Govinda, what will be the use of all this wealth if all my relatives, they are killed on the battlefield? And Prabhupada explains the mentality of Arjuna behind using the word Govinda. Prabhupada says, Arjuna is referring Krishna as Govinda. Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the senses. Govinda. Go means senses and cows also. And Vinda means who gives pleasure. So Krishna is known as one who gives pleasure to the senses and the cows. So Arjuna is trying to tell Krishna, Krishna, you are Govinda, you should be giving pleasure to my senses. If my relatives are killed, what kind of pleasure I'm going to get? I'm not going to be happy. So your responsibility is to see that my senses are pleased. And Prabhupada said, this is a mistake people do. They think God is their order supplier. He should be satisfying our senses. But the real import of word Govinda is, when we engage our senses in service of Govinda, our senses become automatically satisfied. That's the meaning of Govinda. Govinda doesn't mean that Krishna is a contractor, he has taken contract for satisfying our senses. No. So in Ramayana we see the beautiful example. Ravana, he comes to kidnap Mother Sita. He takes the form of a sadhu, and with the help of Marich, he drives away Ram and Lakshman and takes away Sita on his airplane. But when he is going in his airplane, he sees a very ferocious bird, Jatayu. He was an old vulture. He was the king of vultures, but he was very old, invalid. And he happened to be a very old friend of Maharaj Dashrath. So when he saw Ravana is taking away Sita, Jatayu came with all his might to fight. Now it's not that Jatayu didn't know who Ravana was. He knew that Ravana was a great warrior. And Ravana was young. Very, very powerful warrior. And Jatayu was an old bird. Ravana had blessings of Lord Brahma. And he had already defeated so many demigods. including Indra. And Jatayu was just an insignificant bird, an old bird. If anyone sees that situation and think, oh, Jatayu is going to be killed, even Jatayu would know that. But Jatayu came with all his might to give a battle, to give a fight to Ravana. And in fact, the whole chapter of Valmiki Ramayana describes that Jatayu, he actually pounded upon Ravana. First of all, he attacked. The Ravana's airplane was driven by the donkeys, some kind of celestial donkeys, they could fly. So he attacked on the donkeys, killed the donkeys, killed the chariot driver, and he actually started ripping off the body of Ravana. Ravana actually lost the control of his, not only airplane, but even his weapons. And he came crashing to the ground. His airplane was actually broken. So he got really angry. Ravana was extremely angry. Finally, because he was fully ripped off, his body was ripped off from different places. Jatayu was giving him a very hard fight. He was soaked with blood, his own blood, not Jatayu's blood. So Ravana became enraged. Finally, he took the sword. He chopped off the wings of Jatayu. And Jatayu actually fell down. And then he picked up the Sita, and through his own mystic powers, he flew in the sky, carrying the Sita in his lap. And Jatayu was left soaked in blood, weeping and crying that he couldn't save Sita. Just imagine. Now one may think, how is it that the Lord allows his dear devotee Jatayu to be defeated and killed at the hands of a demon? The protection does not mean that Krishna protects our body all the time. Protection means Krishna protects our self, our consciousness, which should always dwell at his lotus feet. That's the real meaning of protection. So Jatayu was defeated. And he was lying on the ground, soaked in blood. And the worst thing is, when Lord Ram and Lakshman, they returned back, they couldn't find Sita, they started looking for Sita all over, and they came near Jatayu. They thought maybe this bird, because they saw so much blood, they thought maybe this vulture, evil vulture, has eaten Sita. So Ram actually came to kill him. He said, you evil vulture, you have killed my Sita, I will kill you. Just imagine, he was trying to save Sita. And here comes his own Lord in angry mood to kill him. It looks like complete defeat. I was trying to serve this person, and this person is misunderstanding me, and he's God. And Jatayu explained, my dear Lord, no, it is Jatayu. I am the friend of Dashrath. I was trying to save Sita, but Ravana took away her. I couldn't save her. Lord Ramchandra was very much moved hearing this. And finally, Jatayu giving him the information that actually Ravana has taken away Sita to the southern direction, he left his body. And Lord Ramchandra, with his own hands, it's actually very significant. Lord Ramchandra couldn't perform the last rites of his own father Dashrath. It was performed by Bharat, because Ram was gone away in the forest when Dashrath left his body. But Lord Ramachandra, with his own hands, performed the last rites for Jatayu. That's a victory in one way. Jatayu attained the position of father for Lord Ram in one way. Lord Ramchandra accepted him as father, and he performed his last rites as he would have performed for his own father. But Jatayu offered his body to be sacrificed in the service of Lord Ram. He sacrificed his very self in the service of Lord Ram. And this kind of Atma Nivedan is actually very difficult, because when we come to Krishna consciousness, we have a lot of preconceived ideas that God should protect whatever I have. And yes, He will protect, but in His own way, not the way we want. He will protect the way He likes. He knows what is the best way to protect us, to protect our body, to protect our consciousness, and to protect our very self. And a person who has that kind of faith that actually Krishna will protect me, that's actually another stage, of Sharanagati, which we'll probably be discussing in the forthcoming weeks. Then only there is Atma Nivedanam possible. Atma Nivedana means to give up everything in the service of Lord in complete confidence. So this is the sum and substance, that the process of Atma Nivedana means to have complete willingness to give up everything in the service of the Lord, and let the Lord decide what way and how He will protect and preserve everything that we have. I think we'll stop here. If anyone has any questions, we can ask, or we can... Yes, Prabhu? I'll just repeat the question. His question is that how do we analyze that which level of surrender or Atma Nivedan we are at? Because we see different people have, or different devotees may exhibit different level of surrender. That's what you're trying to say? Actually, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamiham. As people approach me, to the degree they surrender to Krishna, to that degree Krishna reciprocates. So, Krishna will reciprocate to the degree one is surrendered to. And as far as we are concerned, analyzing our own life, how much we are surrendered to, that is very much visible through what we can actually analyze in our own life is to the degree our inclination for sense enjoyment goes down. When we are practicing Krishna consciousness, at the same time our desires for sense enjoyment goes down. That means to that degree we are more and more surrendered. Srila Prabhupada says, like some devotee asked Prabhupada, how do we judge how much we are advancing in Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada said, to the degree your fever of material life goes down. Prabhupada gives example, just like there was one lady, rich lady. So she had a maidservant at home. So once the maidservant was sick and she was also sick. So doctor comes. He says, your maidservant has fever 103 and you have 101 degree fever. She said, she's my maidservant. How can she have more fever than me? She should have everything less than me. So Prabhupada says, similarly, everybody thinks I should be having more fever. I should be having more wealth, more sense enjoyment. But to the degree that desire for possessing more and more sense gratification in this world goes down, to that degree we are more and more advanced in Krishna consciousness. To that degree we are more and more surrendered to Krishna. Because when Krishna becomes pleased with our surrender, the first thing He will do is He will reduce our fever and practically stop the fever of material existence. So that's our cross-check. To the degree our desires for sense gratification goes down, that means to that degree we are more and more surrendered to Krishna. And to the degree our enjoyment mentality is increasing, that means something alarming. The process of surrender we are not following properly. Does that answer your question, Prabhu? Any other questions? So I think we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki